Today on the Self Smarter podcast.
Every day counts. Mm-hmm. They are numbered. And every day is a brush stroke in the masterpiece that is your life. Mm-hmm. Maybe beautiful. Not all of them are in the same direction or in the right direction, but at the end of the day, it's a day on the canvas of your life. Make it count.
Hi, we're Danelle and Megan, the hosts of this conversation-centric podcast for leaders seeking to be better every day. Whether you choose to be a leader in the workplace, at home, or in your community, we believe the most effective leaders are equipped to not only be self-starters, but self-smarter.
Good afternoon.
Hello.
This is kind of a big day. We have our first guest.
I know, like we're grown up.
We're all grown up.
Yes, we do. And there are many reasons why we're so excited to have this particular guest with us. She's an inspiration for the podcast, a good friend, fellow leader, and someone on the Self-Smarter journey. Please help me welcome Raina Nelson.
Hello.
Hello.
Yay. I am honored to be here with you guys today. Thank you so much for having me.
Yes.
Finally.
Thank you for being here. And hello, everyone. Just in case you're new here, thank you for joining us today. I'm Megan, and I'm here with my trusty co-host, Danelle.
Hello.
And as we mentioned, today we have our very first guest. Oh my gosh, I can't imagine it being anybody else but you, Raina.
Yay. And as I mentioned, you're one of the personas for our podcast, and I know that's been talked about in a previous episode. And when we were looking to take the leap of faith to start this podcast, we wanted to create content that would speak to leaders in your position and would be helpful to you and obviously people who are on this self-smarter journey. But then also we wanted to create content that you would want to share with your team, share with the people you're mentoring. And so in that way, you've been just a beacon for us. So thank you for your support and thank you for joining us today, and hope you like the wine.
Absolutely. Yeah.
We normally record earlier in the day, but this is an afternoon recording and wine was in order. So
Sure. We don't drink in the morning. Just kidding. We don't. We don't.
So tell us a little bit about yourself.
Oh, well, like you said, I'm on a perpetual journey to understand myself better and to really try to just be a better leader and person in all aspects of life. So first of all, just thank you what you're doing with Self Smarter, because it's hitting the mark. And so me, taking it all the way back to the childhood.
Yeah.
I grew up in rural central Florida. I'm the daughter of a citrus grower. But that was really his hobby. But it's been incredibly influential in my life because it taught me so many lessons, both my brother and I, and I'm forever thankful for it. And really actually did not anticipate to work in the produce industry. I didn't really want to be in the ag sector. I saw the hard work that it took. So while it taught me lessons, it also wasn't
you were running for the hills. Yeah.
So, but through the course of my college education, I found food science, and I am a science nerd. I really enjoyed it. It resonated. It was a feeder into med school. But then once I realized, I can maybe make the supply chain safer through this avenue, and not have to go to school for 20 years.
Sounds good.
That's when it changed.
Yeah, exactly.
So I joined a large company that we actually have in common together, Del Monte Fresh, as my first job in the industry under the quality and food safety realm. And since then have just kind of worked in all segments of the industry, international business, business development, sales, et cetera. Now with Westphalia Fruit as CEO of North America, and really blessed to be with this company. So in a nutshell, that's kind of my journey.
Wow.
And Westphalia being one of the largest growers of avocados. So for our listeners out there who love avocados, our company is one of the best in the business at it, and it's so great to know that you're at a company that's as amazing as Westphalia. So we're excited about that for you as fellow leaders and friends of yours. So
And our listeners here in the U.S. probably don't know a lot about Westphalia, but they will.
Oh, they will.
They absolutely will. Yes. But if you like your avo toast and you like your guac, you can thank Raina.
And yes, absolutely.
Right? And
just Raina.
You don't have to worry about your food safety because Raina,
that's right,
is on the case.
Absolutely.
And has been on the case for a hot minute. So don't worry about it. Enjoy your avocados, girls and boys. All right, Raina, we chatted about this earlier today, but something we love to talk about is the Enneagram. And really, when it comes to leadership, it's very important. It's a very important tool that we believe in. So, and I know you have taken the Enneagram and you are a type 6.
I am 6.
Loyalist. The loyalist. Yes. What do you think this tells our listeners about you? Just without even knowing you, what do you think they're surmising right now?
Well, I think it's just the term loyalist. If you're loyal to something or to a cause, you're there, you're in it, you are committed. And yeah, my brain just, it works all the time. But I have to believe in the cause. And if I do, then I'm there.
Ooh, convicted. I like that.
Yeah.
Yes.
That's really true. That is not something that came to mind. I was going to say what it makes me think about is that you're a blue ribbon. Like when it comes to employee, you're a blue ribbon employee. I've never worked at the same company as you, but I would imagine you are a blue ribbon employee and you're clutch at everything that you do because you put a lot of pressure on yourself. I also know as a type 9 who goes to 6 in stress that when I go there to 6, it's all about, oh no, it's like doom in the head. Is that true? Can you relate to that?
Doom. God, that's so dramatic.
It gets pretty heavy.
Okay. Sometimes it does. It gets heavy. Like I said, my brain never shuts off, and sometimes it's scary in there.
It is scary in there. When I can think of one stressful occasion over the last couple of years, or actually 5 years. Danelle and I, pre-pandemic, would go to Africa, South Africa every year. And I was stressed out and thought I was going to die. Like that was
on the plane,
airplane specifically.
Yeah,
I wasn't worried about the land.
No,
like just get me there.
Yes.
But like, just thinking about that flight. And so thank goodness I have Dr. Feelgood along with me who can manage me and manage medications like Elvis. So.
Yes, very doctor approved meds, but they were necessary and they might have slipped into her drink a few times. so she wouldn't turn into Kristen Wiig on like Bridesmaids and lose her mind. Yes.
What does 6 on the Enneagram mean to you, Danelle?
I think most of our listeners, if they've been listening to previous episodes, know that I'm a 7. So I have 2 very dominant. We all have 2 wings, and mine happens to be 6 and 8. But I would say that I have a very dominant 6 wing when it comes to owning this business. And an example, I was just actually telling Raina about this the other day. A good example of me going into my 6 wing and being productive is that when the pandemic hit, within a very short amount of time, I had a 12-step contingency plan of all the things that were going to carry this company through. Now we only got to 2 of those steps, but there were 12 on there, and I was able to share that with the company. And that's me using that sensibility of what could happen. So it was the 6 version of sensibility, not necessarily the fear. It was there. That was definitely, I could sit with it, but it was the healthy kind of fear. It was like, don't not act like this is not a big deal. Like, don't stay in your 7 and throw a party.
Right.
Well, oh, look,
like,
we all have to stay at home and like have fun on Zoom. No, that's what I would like to continue to have done. But yeah, so I think being a 6, and the other thing that we share in common, and we talk about this stuff a lot, is that you're a 6, so you have a 5 wing, and 7s go to 5 in growth. And that contingency plan was another example of me being in growth. And so and then we both share 7 because she has that wing. And so it's fascinating when you have this relatability with someone and this knowledge, you can just get to know each other so much quicker. And I think that's what we've been able to use it to our advantage. So
we have. And one of the things that I think threads us too is that we're all very fun. We like to have a lot of fun together because we could get to know each other fairly quickly.
And the trust is there.
And the trust is there. And so, in fact, we just had some fun days together and experiences in both France and in Germany. And so we drank no champagne. So I don't want anybody to worry about that.
None.
We don't like it at all.
Drain Paradise at all.
No champagne. Yeah. And so I'd love it if you'd share with our listeners just about, I am a sort of bystander and a friend, of course, but since the pandemic, y'all's friendship has really ramped up. And so I think it's a good time for us to kind of dive into that and how that came to be.
Sure. Yeah.
Oh God. Her version. Okay.
Do you want my version first?
Yeah, we'll let you go first.
So I've known Danelle for a number of years. Who doesn't really in this industry?
Right.
And of course, I knew she was fun and larger than life and a leader and a marketing expert in an industry where we really need that focus. And again, just would run into her at industry events, but it really was just that. It was kind of a superficial relationship. We worked a little bit here and there on other initiatives, like with the STARS program, and but it really changed right before the pandemic went down.
Yeah, and she's being very nice. So to our listeners, there's another version of the story that she likes to tell. At the first time we met, how I walked into a room, and as she quote unquote likes to say, usually she's again not being nice to me right now, but with my entourage, and which just makes my skin crawl, because that was probably about 10 years ago. It's before I really started to become aware of not only how I was showing up for my team, but how I was showing up in general. And I'm very conscious of those things now. I can't help it. I'm a 7. There's a certain energy that we possess, and that's not a bad thing. It's not a bad thing at all. But I think back on those days and I think, wow, I really missed an opportunity. Maybe I said hello to you and we had an exchange, but why didn't I take the time to, really connect with you? And that's something I'm trying to be a lot more, I have been for years, but a lot more intentional about. Is it's not the amount of people and then that used to be something that mattered to me, is the amount of people that I might say hello to. And now I've been able to understand it's, quantity is not necessarily better than quality. And now I would prefer to connect with fewer people and make it more meaningful. So I missed that opportunity, which is probably why our relationship just kind of trickled along through the years of just being colleagues and fellow admirers. And like she said, she invited me to be part of the STARS program, which is an incredible program that you helped found with one of our, no, you didn't help find
I
it?
actually did not help found it.
Okay.
It was really
already there.
You
took the bull by the horns, I can tell you that.
It was just became a very big passion of mine.
Right. So it's recruiting students into our industry, and that's something we share in common. And so she was so kindly would invite me to speak at these events. And so that's where our relationship started to foster just a little bit more. And then there's other programs that we would be involved with. And then it all changed, and you decided to be very vulnerable with me. One early March weekend at an event in 2020. So this was our last event as an industry for almost a year and a half. So I just want our listeners to have that context. And I was like, not only were you vulnerable about what you told me, but where it happened and when, because we didn't know what was around the corner the first week in March. We had no idea. So talk to us about what happened in that moment.
Sure. Yeah. And I had a life event that no one wants to ever face. In November of 2019, I was diagnosed with breast cancer. And that was shocking. It was surreal. It was not happening to me. It just wasn't. It was a bad dream. It was a nightmare. So I had obviously that information for a while and trying to figure out how I was going to get through this thing, beat this disease, go down this journey. And typically, you know, I'm a pretty independent individual. And I have my small circle of trusted friends, and I'm very loyal to them. I know, shocking. But I knew in order to get through this, I was going to have to lean in, trust, and surround myself with people that were going to help me get through it. Yeah. I needed to ask for help, and that was not easy for me. It was not normal. But God had to bring me to my knees. He really did. And so you became one of those people. And it really was, at this event, I knew that there were certain people that I was going to tell. And, I think you had texted me and you're like, we had not really been able to connect.
Yeah. You had said, I'd like to
at this
spend
event.
some time with you. And I'm thinking, talk about
The
jobs
STARS
or
program.
what the STARS program. I really didn't. I was like, yeah, sure. Let's connect.
Yeah. And so the last day gets here, the last hour really before you were going to get on a plane and leave this event. And I'm like, I have to take this opportunity. It's not going to be the perfect setting or the way I wanted it to occur or happen. But that was one of the lessons that I learned throughout this, that it doesn't always have to be perfect and you can't always prescribe. You just have to you have to trust. And so I wound up telling you, sharing this news with you, with another one of our friends and colleagues in the industry on the show floor in the midst of business being done, conversations being had, booth bustle.
Right.
It was heavy news to deliver in a very light and bright and busy space.
Yes. I would describe it that way as well.
And I think you know it is. It's shocking, and and I learned this as well. Some people don't know how to respond at all, and then there are other responses where it's like, huh?
Yeah. Where is that coming from?
Yes.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think it definitely caught you off guard, to say the least.
Yeah, I mean, I was not expecting that. And then again, I think we both have learned so much from all of this. And you shared that news with me. And while we knew each other, respected each other tremendously, we were still just getting to know each other. And then, so you combine that with I'm catching a flight in an hour. I didn't know that's your news to share, but I had to share it with Meg on the way home because I was so caught off guard. Like I was so unexpectedly emotional for someone that I'm not going to say barely knew, but yeah, in many ways barely knew. And I'm an empath, and I think we've talked about this a lot. And so I carry a tremendous amount of empathy. And while I haven't experienced that, it was a lot. And so then we get home, and literally 10 days later, we now go into the heat of COVID. So I couldn't hop on, in my mind, I was thinking of things that I could do. Like I couldn't show up at your house because I know where you live, but I knew the city you lived in, but all the things that I could potentially do to support you in a traditional way if someone around here or a friend, and all that was gone.
Right.
Like literally gone.
Yeah.
And now was feeling like, how do I connect with her? And I think that's where we both experienced vulnerability. Certainly you telling me and you being vulnerable in that moment and trusting me with that. And then my overcoming this, I don't know what to say. I don't know what to do. She has so many friends and family. I'm sure they have it. Like that stuff was going through my mind. But something in my heart was like tugging, like don't, just because you may not get it right or you don't know her that well, don't stop trying to let her know that you're thinking about her. Like that's kind of just the realm that I stayed in. And from that, we were able to certainly, but we didn't see each other for a year and a half. Mm-hmm. So we started fostering through text or Zoom calls or whatever. And, it was what it was. And then you were in the, fight of your life and you would keep me updated. And I appreciated that. But yeah, it was unusual. Mm-hmm. I usually know what to do in so many ways, how to show up for someone. And I didn't.
But you did. And you listened to the voice. And that's another lesson that I learned through this. Listen to your voices, because guess what? That's really likely going to be positive impact on a life. And God sent me many angels throughout this journey. And you were one of them. And you gave me the grace. You also said, don't feel obligated to text me or call me or keep me updated. But I put myself out there. I offer, my support, whatever that looks like. And that's really what somebody going through that journey needs. And maybe you didn't know that or know that you did that, but you gave me one of the most generous gifts as well. Again, pandemic, you could still send packages, but you gave me a box of your favorite things.
So I didn't know what yours were.
Because you didn't know what mine were. And a lot of them just really, really spoke to me. And again, you said it, and I do. I have an amazing group of friends, and each one of them reached out in their own special way and showed up and supported. But yeah, for you to do that at that level of our relationship, or that stage of our relationship, I would say, was really amazing. So thank you.
Well, I'm glad I showed up, because there was that voice in my head that I was having to fight a little bit, because it was so vulnerable, and I didn't feel like I'd fostered the trust quite yet to go there, but I did, and I'm grateful that we were able to share that. So I think about you, and we talk about this a lot, the watching you deal with that adversity, but then watching how you artfully have and continue to turn that into awakening. And it's incredible how you use perseverance and determination to say, okay, not only am I going to beat this, I'm going to learn from it, and I'm going to grow from it, and I'm going to make others better on the other end of this. And I know you're still on that journey. I mean, it's still revealing itself to you. And I just have incredible amount of respect for that, because I can't imagine how many days that was very, very insanely difficult for you.
It was, and I would fashion myself a strong person, but there were days when I could barely crawl, and it was really hard. But I never really asked God, why me? It was, what do you want me to learn here? What are you trying to teach me? What are you trying to show me? My life verse is Proverbs 3:5-6. And it basically is, don't lean on your own understanding.
Okay.
Lean on Him. And I had to. And there were, again, a lot of adversity. But I knew I was going to persevere. And now, like you said, I'm still trying to figure out how I'm supposed to help others. Right. Whether it be, and it's already started to reveal itself in many ways, other women that have been diagnosed at a young age or older. How can they advocate for themselves through the whole process? It's more than just, okay, you have to be a good patient and do the things. Cancer is a personal journey, and sometimes a one size fits all doesn't really work. So I had to fight for myself for different treatments than just the normal protocols. And again, I had so many wonderful people that were put in my path to help me through that. I want to make sure that I pass that on as much as I can.
Absolutely.
And I haven't been very vocal about sharing my story. This is the first time that I'm openly speaking about it.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
For trusting us once again.
But it's, I think, like you said, more revelation is to come, how this is going to help create positive change and impact in others' lives. So it happened, it happened for a reason.
Absolutely. And something I failed to mention to our listeners beforehand, and I think part of my reaction on the front end, and certainly the amount of respect that we all have for you, what you may not know or you don't know unless you know Raina, is that she's an athlete. She's a pillar of health. She was diagnosed at 39? Were you 39?
Yes, 39.
39. So young, pillar of health. I mean, incredible athlete, and knows what to eat. She's already told us she knows how to navigate nutrition and all of these things, and yet here was this challenge. And I think for me, knowing those things about you, even though I didn't know a lot about you, I knew those things, and I think it was really hard for me to reconcile that piece of it. And again, I failed to say that on the front end, but I want to make sure that our listeners know that particular aspect about you, because for those of us who know you and have been alongside you on this journey, or at least in support of you, I think that weighs. It's like, why her?
Right.
Like, and I mean, I think you could ask that about anyone.
Yes.
But it was just one of those things. It was really hard to make sense of that, and it's where the faith comes in, and that certainly has led us forward. So I wanted to make sure that I made that point.
So when it comes to the adversity, can you talk a little bit about? You talked about lessons, and you talked about lessons from above. Can you expand on the lessons that you did learn that you are now applying, living, considering beyond cancer?
Yeah. And we call it maybe an awakening, the adversity, but the awakenings that come out of the adversity. And I would say the biggest awakening, and for me, it came through a very significant life event, right. Yeah. But it doesn't always have to. There can be small awakenings throughout your day, no matter what, the circumstances or environment might be. But I think one of the biggest lessons learned was every day counts. Mm-hmm. They are numbered. And every day is a brush stroke in the masterpiece that is your life. Mm-hmm. Maybe not all of them are in the same direction or in the right direction, but at the end of the day, it's a day on the canvas of your life. Make it count, and try to show up and listen to those voices of intuition, because guess what? They probably mean something. And so, earlier, in my career, I was, again, very focused, achiever, driven, 360 evaluation to try to make sure that I assessed every risk and, possible outcome of a situation. So, and it served me very well throughout my career. But there were many instances where sometimes I thought I could do it all, or I would have to ask for very little help. Mm-hmm. And so I think that was another large lesson that I learned, is you cannot and should not do it all yourself. Right. And lean in. Mm-hmm. Lean in and be vulnerable. It's okay. Vulnerability does not mean weakness, as Queen Brene says.
Yeah, it's our greatest courage.
Yes.
It's so interesting, speaking of Brene, we all have adversity. And I think one of the things she's taught us, and we've had conversations about this to a great extent, is we shouldn't compare adversity or struggles. We shouldn't compare. And so when I think about, and in this case, I'm not necessarily comparing, but we've talked a lot on this podcast that I had, in my case, as a leader, this is not in my personal space. Well, it ended up impacting my personal space, but is that as a leader, I had to have this huge slap in the face with this 26% approval rating to start to make significant changes in my life and certainly my leadership. And I think about you and, this huge challenge with what you had to overcome. And I loved what you said. It's like, yes, we're going to have these major moments of adversity. I certainly have been vocal about the leadership piece. I certainly have them in my personal life. They're different than yours. You know, we all have them, but let's not wait. I think the lesson here is, to your point, is let's not wait till something significant. Let's try to find awakenings in the everyday. And I love that you said that, because that's what I think is going to help us when the big adverse moments come. We'll kind of have we'll be muscled up a little bit better potentially for when the big moments come, if we can be listening and be a lot more in tuned with what can I learn today, just on this random Tuesday, what can I learn? And I just think that is such a great lesson, and I appreciate you sharing that we can all take away. We love to give tangibles here, is to train our minds to be aware of those small awakenings. That could be a podcast that you weren't meaning to listen to, or, a song. I have about 10 song awakenings a day. Thank you, Spotify, and friends who share music. But I really love that about, what you've learned. And I think one of the other topics that you and I talk about, and I'd like to explore it a little bit more, is like when we talk about our role as leaders, and we're both all three of us are in the same industry. So we've been serving this industry our entire careers. For the most part, Meg took a minute to join us, but she's been here for 15. So in many ways, most of her career, she spent time here. But looking at leaders who are in a position, say we're all 10 to 15 years in. So we've been around for a minute, right? We still have a ways to go. I don't know if this was over a couple glasses of wine, but we sort of coined this phrase. And I'm a visual person, so when we talk, I have to draw pictures. I mean, both of these.
The napkins.
Yeah, they know it. They see the napkins a lot. Yeah, is that I see us as being these leaders on this bridge. So we coined the phrase, again, probably over a couple glasses of wine, bridge leaders, and that we have one side of the bridge where you have the leaders that have gone before us. That were in our particular industry. A small group of them, especially as it relates to women leaders. Mm-hmm. And I'm speaking specifically about women at this point. But they have the wisdom, and they almost have the historical context that tells us the why. Mm-hmm. And so, but we are in a unique position to relate to them. They trust us because they've seen the work that we do. They've seen how we show up. But at the same time, they just didn't have the tools available to them, as we didn't early on, of self-awareness, the leadership training and development. I don't know that they were ever given a lot of sponsorship or opportunity to, again, there wasn't the supply there. And we are in a very unique position because there's more than there's ever been. And even though we're applying it a little bit later, on the other side of the bridge is this incredible amount of young women and men that are on their leadership journeys that we can positively impact with what we know, our mistakes, our lessons, how we've overcome, adversity, and by being vulnerable enough to share that, which is why we started this damn podcast to begin with. And you were like, not, get after it. So thank you for that. But, what are I know we've talked about this a lot, like what are your thoughts on that? I don't know, is that a analogy, this bridge leadership thing that I'm trying to put some context around?
Yeah, no, I think it's a perfect illustration of where we are at and where we can meet both generations, right? Or both sides of the bridge, rather. Let's not talk about generations.
Correct.
Because we've seen and experienced both, and we're really seeing, and I'm going to use a term that I would like us to start using, and it was said a few weeks ago at the Women's Fresh Perspective Conference in Albuquerque. Someone said, let's stop saying we're in a male-dominated industry. Mm-hmm. We're in a female-forward industry.
Yeah, just flip the script.
Yep.
Yes, exactly. And so
I love that.
I do too.
I feel like it's as do you, it's part of our responsibility, because you're right. We didn't have the tools or the opportunities that we have today, or the platforms. So let's help accelerate that initiative.
Yes.
And be leaders as women that support one another.
Yeah. we have a lot of work to do in that area.
Yes.
We do. And I think it's showing up as a human leader. And, you know, we just finished an episode that released this week on humility, and you're one of the most humble leaders. She asked me who was the most humble leader, and I didn't say Dolly Parton, but if you just said no, like real, like you, our real people, I guess, you know, Dolly's up here, but you know, you would have been one of those people on that list. And I think about those qualities that maybe 10 years ago, showing up humble was seen as a weakness, which is what we talk about relative to, I think, servant leadership. I know that's something we all understand and something we leaned into, and kind of how I defined humility before I started studying it. And I started to realize, wait a minute, there's a lot more to showing up as a humble leader. And I think, yes, we have a responsibility, and yes, we need to support each other. And I think we need to really understand the importance of being the first to raise your hand and being okay with it. I didn't get this right. I, you know, and again, we talk a lot about how humble leaders show up, but we have a real opportunity on this bridge that we're on, running back and forth between the two, to make a significant difference. And when I think about people in their 20s and 30s that we have the opportunity to impact, and their energy and honestly, their vulnerability to want to dive into this stuff at that stage of their life, that's going to be the thing that changes business for the better, but that actually can ultimately change society, because people have the tools to show up as the best version of themselves, or a better version of themselves. I think our listeners know one of our core values here at DMA is better every day, because if we're just working on something every day, then the net effect of that is going to be significant. Maybe not on a Tuesday to a Friday, but over time, there's going to be a huge impact. And, you know, I again, we've shared a lot of those conversations, and I think bridging the gap means seeing the opportunity as female forward in the case of female leaders. But for males too, it's leaning in and learning more about yourself, so that you can then learn more about each other, which is why we do all the assessments we take and learn about ourselves. And I know you're a big proponent of a lot of the tools we use, from the Enneagram to Ideal Team Player. You talk, you know, I know you love the Working Genius, and these are all tools that just help us understand a little bit more about how we're wired and tick. And that, to me, also is going to be a game changer for the next generation. I mean, again, if we had this stuff in our 20s, saved a lot of heartache. I know that for sure. We're successful, and we've had a lot of success in our years. But I just think about that now that we're so committed to doing great work, but more importantly, showing up as the best version of ourselves and helping others do the same. I think that's something we all three share in common, and that to me is the legacy of what we're going to leave behind.
Yeah, I would agree. And it's just, if it's accelerating the unlocking of potential, and it doesn't just have to be in the professional realm. It can be in your personal life. Lead where you are. That's what I love about the Self Smarter. It's, you know, it's a conversation-centric podcast about leadership, just in general, in a holistic manner. And it can be applied, again, in and out of the workplace. But it really is about enriching your lives, making those brushstrokes on that masterpiece in the right direction to create this beautiful picture. So yeah, bridge leaders, definitely want to wave that banner and do that thing.
I appreciate you sharing your story today, because when we talk about people on the bridge, people on the other side of the bridge, you've crossed the bridge on leadership. I mean, you're a proven successful leader in our industry and globally. You have survived and beaten cancer's ass. So that's wonderful.
Checked that box.
Yes. But not everybody can share that. Not everybody has done that. Not everybody has won their battle. And you have lived to tell. And so the gift, you know, I'm listening very intently, and I'm just seeing such a huge opportunity for you with younger people on the other side of the bridge to get them over that bridge when it comes to things beyond. I mean, you are a leader, and just by default, because of what you do and who you are. cancer is taking you to another level. Would you say that you said, adversity unlocks potential? Would you say that a new potential has been unlocked in you?
I couldn't have said it any better, Megan. That is spot on. And that is, I think, ultimately why, maybe that's why, I don't know, but I know I've got to do something with it. I know that I didn't go through it for nothing. And I think it will continue to, like we've talked about, evolve, and that revelation will continue to reveal itself. But yes, it definitely, it changed, not saying that I wouldn't have been a good or even great leader without it,
Sure.
but it has made me a better human being for sure. And an even better leader.
Well, thank you for sharing it with us today. I really can't believe it. We've been talking about this and waiting for it. Yeah. And here you are in the flesh and talking about your experience, and you are a true inspiration. Absolutely. And I know that I can speak for the women that work at our company. I can speak to the people who I've spoken who now know you through me, about you. And I just want to thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me. Thank you for letting me tell it.
We're not. No, I know we're not. But I might be getting emotional. Well, I need another glass of champagne.
We'll get it out.
That I don't like. No, I'm kidding. Love champagne. No, seriously, thank you, Raina, very much. Okay, we should transition to our music moment.
All right.
And I think it'll be fun. And Danelle's going to take the wheel today, as Carrie Underwood would say.
Absolutely. So the three of us, we share a deep, deep love for music, and we're very passionate about it. In fact, when Raina and I were connecting in the early days when, and trying to find something, when I didn't know what to say to her, I could just send her a song or send her lyrics to a song. I was like, I don't know how this is going to go over, but I love the song. And sometimes I'd send context.
Music is therapy.
Yes.
Music is therapy.
I mean, it's a great healer, in my opinion. So when I would think about her and I would hear a song, even if it was just to cheer her up or if it was inspirational or whatever. So I think music was one of those things that we were able to utilize when we couldn't, the year and a half, we didn't see each other. And as we were fostering our friendship, and you've talked about, you literally, just everything you've shared with us today, like you embody perseverance. And this got me thinking about music, and I'm like, how are we going to tie this in today without just asking like what is your favorite music? Because I already know the answer. And that was boring. And so I started thinking about musicians that we love and we share in common. And I think about those that persevered and didn't necessarily just come onto the scene like a Carrie Underwood and make it. And so I started thinking about Chris Stapleton. I think that was one of the first artists we bonded over. And just a little bit on him is that he first signed a songwriting contract in 2001. And he began writing songs for some of the, he has over 7 chart number ones, over 7 number ones, but he's written over 170 songs, but he didn't, and he was just writing songs for people. That's his true passion. But his first album didn't come out until 2015.
Right. And now
look. That blows me away. Yeah. Because when he came out, we all fell in love with him. I think it was definitely his first album. But then that performance with Justin Timberlake, which we've played so many times. But if you think about it, and then we're like, where'd this guy come from? And then you start to learn he's written so many of the songs that we already love. And I think about that perseverance that he went through as a songwriter, and then what it took for him to decide to literally play his own music.
Yes.
And so, I don't know, I think about Chris. I think when I hear him, I often think about you. So what are your favorite Chris songs? Or what do you think about Chris's voice?
Oh, well, I describe Chris's voice as melodious elixir.
Ooh, yummy.
Melodious.
I don't know how to spell that one, but I know what elixir is. And I like it.
Because it does. Just last week, I was driving into the office and one of his songs came on, and it's literally the first few measures, and it's like, whoop, volume goes up and mood almost completely changes.
Wow.
Like I just adore his style, his voice, the way he writes, what he writes about, how he expresses it. So yeah, big fan of Chris Stapleton. But yeah, it's like, where has he been? And then once you start to, well, he's been around.
You know what I
long
think everybody likes? One of the things, other than a beautiful voice and just immensely talented, is that, at least for me, I believe him. When he's
Authentic.
singing,
Yes.
it's like, I believe him that is true. And maybe it is, but it's not, I didn't just write lyrics to write lyrics for a song. Like, I'm literally spilling my heart out to you right now through this melody.
Yeah.
So I think he's highly relatable in that way.
Highly relatable. Yeah, absolutely.
So what's your favorite Chris song?
Oh, that's a hard one. Was not prepared for that question.
Oops. All right. What do you think about it?
Yeah. Probably. What are you listening to?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you know what's interesting is it's one of my favorites too, but I don't think that ever made it to the radio.
Which I can't believe.
I mean, me neither, because Megan's had to hear it like only 800
Right.
times, like because it's always on my rotation. But I think about that song, I'm like, how did that not make it to the charts? So maybe
So good.
radio's listening out there. Somebody's going to start playing it again. All right, so on to our favorite, Brandy Carlisle. I mean, if and all three of us, huge Brandy. We're going to see her multiple times this year
So
on
excited.
tour, but we all listened to the audiobook, Broken Horses, which I'll once again recommend to our listeners. It's a game changer. I mean, significant game changer. Just her story is incredible, and she's an
Big
incredible
endorsement
story.
here too.
Yes.
Read it.
Yes, absolutely. But I mean, she's been making music and albums since her debut in 2005. So over 15 years, which blows me
my
away. But she's just now breaking through on the commercial success at a significant level.
Yes.
I mean, the story
yes.
several years ago, that song, which I think it was 2007, that song had significance, but her albums just never really could gain traction until this fall when she came out with In These Silent Times, which I know
In
we're
These
all
Silent
obsessed
Days.
with. In times. Okay, see, but I mean, this is her 7th studio album, and she's just now hitting the mark where she's selling out significant tours.
Oh, yeah.
Guest appearances on shows. And I mean, she's finally getting the critical acclaim, and that's perseverance. And again, we have a little bit of an edge because we've listened to the audiobook and we know what she's gone through to get here. But when I think about that from an artist perspective, it's like, wow, she just neither one of them gave up on, and not that they were in that position, but I mean, definitely Brandy could have given up. Because
for sure.
putting out the albums, at least Chris was a successful songwriter for other people. Brandy, on the other hand, was just trying, and she was successful in a certain genre.
Yes.
Americana
folk.
And I know she has she has a very specific following leading up to her now, like, incredible following. So talk to us about your love for Brandy.
Oh, man. Well, I think it definitely deepened. I loved her as an artist before Broken Horses.
Same.
But reading that, listening to it, I read it and I listened to it on audiobooks.
Oh, wow. I didn't know you read it.
She narrated it.
Okay.
And just for the listeners out there that have not listened to it on Audible yet, the way that the chapters go, she narrates it, and it's, about her life and her journey. But at the end of every chapter, you can literally hear her pick up the guitar, and then she will play a song, whether it be hers or an influencing artist in her life.
That relates to that chapter.
That relates to that chapter and that content, and she'll play. She'll play.
She puts a bow on the chapter by singing a song that she either wrote or listened to that it was inspired by that
Brilliant.
that experience.
Yes. And I think what moved me the most, and it is one of my 2 favorite Brandy songs, she tells the story about the song, The Joke. Mm-hmm. And I was just absolutely moved by it. I'm not going to give anything away. But now when I listen to that song,
Totally different.
wow, that's all I can think about.
It was, you hear the joke. You can't, I mean, I don't want to know anybody who doesn't like that song.
Right.
So I'm just going to say that right now. But when you know, wow, like will never hear it the hundreds of times I listened to it before, knowing what we know about how she came about that, it just makes our mutual respect for her just grow, because she was able to take an experience that made her feel uncomfortable and for someone else, and she turned it into this amazing,
beautiful
song.
piece of art.
And then you put her voice on it, or just her authenticity. It's magic, and she deserves everything that's coming her way, including all the tickets we've bought to her shows this year,
Right?
Because we are keeping her on the commercial success train.
Big fan club.
Lots of brandy this year, which we can't wait. So we'll be definitely sharing some of those experiences. So, and then one of our new faves, and we'll wrap it here, is we found this artist, Caitlin Smith, and her debut album came out in 2018, and then the album that we are all into right now and just been sharing with each other is her third album, and High is the HIGH, and it's incredible. And you ended up like doing a little bit of research. So tell us about this Caitlin Smith, which, by the way, just looking on, we're like, I bet she's probably like, I don't know, 26 or so. Let's see when this kid made it.
Yeah. Well, talk about perseverance.
Yes.
I researched her a bit because I was like, who is this person? Yeah. I mean, the way she sings, and then the lyrics, again, it's just very moving. And
well, first of all, we were nervous she didn't write the songs.
We wanted to say, I'm like, please say she's a songwriter and has written these words out of her own experiences, heart and soul. And she has. Yeah. And she's not a mid 20 something.
Nope.
She's 35. And she's been writing songs that we all know, and they have been just chart toppers. Wow. And the list just went on and on and on. And some of the songs she wrote, Meghan Trainor and John Legend's song,
that went to number one on pop charts. Yeah.
Yes, for Sarah Evans, Lady Antebellum.
I mean, you would recognize. I mean, the list is so long, because she sent it to me and I was like, oh my goodness. And of course, on that list was Dolly Parton and Kenny Rogers, You Can't Make Old Friends, which is one of...
She wrote that?
She wrote that. She wrote that. Caitlin Smith did.
So Dolly knows her, and she knows Dolly.
She knows Dolly. Yes, and that was Kenny's last commercial song before he passed. So, that song has a lot of significance. But yeah, and you just think like this person's been writing these songs, and maybe her journey was, I just want to write songs.
Maybe.
Just something tells me that that's not exactly probably the case.
Yeah.
But then to keep doing what you're really good at and open the door for this next level, and to be consistent in that passion, and to stay with it and to persevere, which we all know the music business has plenty of adversity for the people on that path. And yes,
was it hard for you to become an entertainer? Are you still facing adversity in trying to get to Nashville?
I'm always facing adversity when you all drag me off the stage and say we have to go home. So that's my most adverse moments these days.
Got it. I just wondered, because you know a lot about it, and just wondered if you'd had some problems in Nashville.
Anyway, we could talk about our music, our love for music, and we could do this for hours, but thanks for letting us explore a few of our favorites with you. So,
and definitely listen. What is Caitlin's last name again?
Smith.
Definitely listen to Caitlin Smith. The album is called High, HIGH. As Danelle said earlier, it is amazing. And beautiful. And
just the way the music is arranged too, like her voice is like insane.
Yeah.
But just the mastery of the strings and the way the songs are put together, and I think the flow of the album is just incredible. I think we're going to be hearing about this person, so you've heard it here first.
That's
potentially.
Right.
Well, Rolling Stone did put out an article that said she was one to watch, but so did the Self Smarter podcast.
Yes, we did.
Heard it here first.
Heard it here. Yes. Well, thank you so much, Raina. We'll bring it to a wrap today. Yeah. Before we go, we want to mention we would love for you to, of course, explore the show notes that we have available for you. And also, we'll definitely have some Caitlin Smith links in there.
Yes, we will.
We will. And visit our website. If you are new today, there are lots of other podcast episodes you can listen to, and those are all available, readily available for you, either on YouTube or on our website. So take a look there. And then we'd love for you to just give us a review. Tell us what you think. It helps us know what you're leaning into relative to content, and it also helps other people find us. And we're certainly here to serve. So thank you all for listening. Thank you, Janelle. Thank you, Raina.
Thank you. I'm honored to be guest number one.
Guest number one is a wrap. Yeah. Thank you so much.
Everyone have a great day.
We send you into the week with grateful hearts.
As always, you can connect with us on Instagram and Facebook at Self Smarter Podcasts. You can also leave a rating or review if you enjoyed what you heard today. Not only does this mean so much to us, but it also helps other leaders and future leaders find our community. Thank you for taking time out of your day to join us in becoming Self Smarter. This podcast is produced by Snacks Media, and music is from a free platform. Well, that is until Brandy Carlisle reaches out to us to write the original score for our podcast. Friends, have a great rest of your day.